two, and I'll tell you, it's going to be a tough choice. I adore Snoopy, and I'll tell you why. Snoopy is a cartoon character that never spoke a word, ever. And yet, did you ever have any problems understanding what he was feeling? Whether it be his loyalty to Charlie Brown, whether it be his passion for Woodstock, to get a license from Charles Schulz and to be able to recreate Peanuts characters is something that is extraordinarily difficult to do, and yet Jim Shore has earned that right. The piece that I've got here is called Musicians, and it's Woodstock with the guitar. By the way, Snoopy looks like he was at Woodstock. He's got his drumsticks. You could see the embellishment of that polyresin, how well it mimics the actual carving work that Jim did originally. That's one piece, priced at $33.74. There's 148 of those available. The next one is called Summer Floaty, and that is Snoopy in a rubber raft, an old inflatable tire with Woodstock, and look at the smile. Man, I'm telling you, I hope that's what summer will bring, where we can get back out and be with our friends. The pricing, $33.75 for the Musicians. It is a little more expensive, a little more detailed in the carving for the Summer Floaty. That's $43.50. And we're going to try high technology again and go back to our phone line. See if that works. Jim, are you back with us once again, sir?
I hope so.
Perfect. It's good to hear your voice. Okay. Sorry about that.
All right. Well, things happen, you know.
Well, how did you get the licensing for the Charles Schulz pieces? That was the longest running American comic strip. I think it was 49 years that Charles Schulz produced the Peanuts series. They weren't going to lend someone bringing them to life in 3 dimension to any artist. They came to you.
Well, you know, Dan, I've looked at Peanuts and the wonderful artwork of Charles Schulz, and as something more than just simply a comic strip. You know, it's Americana. It's something that we've all kind of grown up with, and it's a little bit of philosophy and a little bit of humor and a little bit of satire and a whole lot of things, rolled into one. And I tried to, sort of bring that kind of side of it out in the pieces that I've created here. You talk about the getting the permission to co-brand with the Charles Schulz line of characters and so forth. A lot of that came on the heels of the success that I had with the Disney, with the Disney co-brand, and it was, I think, that kind of led the way and sort of emphasized the fact that yes, we could bring those characters to life, as 3-dimensional pieces in my style, and sort of blend, what I do with what Charles Schulz has created, and make something that will appeal to a wide range of collectors who appreciate, the artwork of Charles Schulz as I do, and also, collect my stuff and see sort of my footprint on it. I met actually Charles Schulz's daughter and at one of the shows, and it was a high point for me because it was when she told me that she thought that her father, Charles Schulz, would like my artwork and really approve of what I was doing. Yep. That was one of the highest compliments I've received, and it was just a delight for me. And it's these pieces, there's a little whimsy in them, and there's a little bit of hope in them, and that sort of thing. Of course, the Woodstock piece, I sort of came up in that era, and I kind of call myself playing the guitar too. I doodle around on it, and so that was a good piece for me. And if you like rock and roll, and you like Peanuts, and you like Snoopy and Woodstock, well, that's a grand piece for you to have.
And it is funny, I was late for Woodstock. I was about 10 years too late for that. It was a really interesting time in American history, and it was definitely, a generational gap between those young people who were there and their parents. But you look back now at Woodstock in some ways as it being an age of innocence, where it was about the music and it was about, feeling like you were making a difference and making a change. And it really has defined an entire generation of individuals. I love that you have the peace signs in it. Looks like a little bit of tie-dye. I also absolutely love that you can tell it's your carving work, but still unmistakably Snoopy. So you did blend two worlds together.
Dan, I'm glad you said that, because that's always my goal when I'm doing a co-brand. I don't want pieces to necessarily, shout Jim Shore, or the people who collect or who look at these pieces for the first time. I don't want them to necessarily say, "Oh, that's Jim Shore piece." I want them to say, "That's Snoopy and Woodstock." I want to be faithful to the essence of the characters themselves first and foremost, and then once they see the piece, they can say, "Oh, by golly, I see Jim Shore's footprint on that. That's a Jim Shore piece." That's kind of what I want. And when I discuss it with these people, I don't generally discuss this thing even as my artwork. I discuss this really more in the light of what Charles Schultz was bringing to us, even more so than what I bring to us.
But Jim, you're not mimicking a particular comic strip or even a particular drawing that Charles Schultz had done. You take a thought process and create this three-dimensional kind of living experience in the moment. I don't remember ever seeing a Peanuts cartoon where Snoopy and Woodstock were floating down the river in an inner tube, or to see Snoopy dressed up like he was headed to Woodstock with his friend Woodstock. So does the Schultz family kind of give you an idea of what they want to see, or are you free to let your imagination roam to create as you see fit?
I pretty much have, sort of the carte blanche as far as the circumstances that I create, and we go through, of course, an approval process, and during the product development phase of what I do, but I've always, used my imagination and the input from my friends and family as to what they'd like to see and how I feel personally about the characters that I'm, trying to do my artwork around. And I try to be very respectful to it. Try to get the type of message that I think, that Mr. Schultz would be, happy with, and that's what I do. And then I, as soon as I get an idea in my mind, and it comes in a flash. And it's oftentimes it's during our brainstorming sessions, or anytime during the day, something will sort of open that little door and say, okay, this is an idea. And as soon as I get that idea, the design work is done. Then it's just a matter of saying, okay, let's get down to creating actually the piece as I envision it in my head. I start out with detailed drawings so that everybody can see what I'm thinking, which, my mind is kind of is a very cluttered place.
From knowing you, I know it never stops. I so appreciate you calling in, and it'll be a treat a little later on in the program that Jim will return and call back in, because we're going to talk about another licensing that is almost impossible to get, and that's the folks from Disney with some Winnie the Pooh pieces.